Hello, my name is Bihus, and you're watching Our Money, the program about anti-corruption investigations. Today we are going to fly. The investigation on how the Ukrainian army gets supplied with UAVs. But we are going to fly pretty low, because if the drones the army gets from MP Rozenblat flew well, maybe there wouldn't be an investigation about that. Yep, you heard this right. Rozenblat and UAVs. Back in 2015, the MP from Petro Poroshenko bloc promised to start mass-producing the reconnaissance drones using the Zhytomyr Institute capacities. If the cabinet of ministers gives him $38 million, he didn't get the money, so now he supplies the army with drones made by Zhytomyr ferroconcrete factory. Next, Lesa Ivanova's investigation on how Rozenblat gives wings to the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainian unmanned military air force began with what was basically toys. The first UAVs used on the front line were cheap civilian drones, which are used to events like concerts and weddings. However, the high demand caused by the war led to the emergence of manufacturing of serious toys in Ukraine. Designing and building UAVs stopped being a volunteer activity, becoming a business instead. The procurement of UAV systems got a special place in the state defense industry orders, a very lucrative order for a lot of state budget's money. Today our device is the best in Ukraine. I saw it neither during flights nor at exhibitions. Classified information, do you understand that? Boryslav Rozenblat, Member of Parliament. He's been in the center of attention since the last year's Amber case. Oblast Council will cost 20,000. We'll buy a couple of votes there. Rozenblat is suspected of soliciting bribes for amber extraction permits. We are talking about almost $300,000 the MP received from Katerina, whose legend was that she represented a company interested in trading in amber. In reality, she was an undercover NABU detective. Yobani made miracles because we got them cornered, both in courts and the prosecutor's office. Rozenblat got filmed on a hidden camera and lost his parliamentary immunity. He was taken off a plane. The arrest on his assets wasn't lifted. You may have heard a lot about Rozenblats and Amber this year. Meanwhile, a really high-profile story developed at the same time. Not widely known, but no less interesting. The story about Rozenblat and military UAVs. I was on this in 2014. Even before I became a member of Parliament of Ukraine, back in March or April, I noticed that Ukraine doesn't have its own UAVs. And I found a team, found some like-minded people, found some investor friends who invested money in this very serious project. And it was being implemented for 4 years, as you can see. After 4 years of parliamentary membership, his dream came true. This year, the state military procurement list included the Hawk UAVs, made by his wife's company. Zhanna Rozenblat and her longtime business partner founded Ukrainian Aviation Systems in 2016. In 2018, the Ministry of Defense plans to procure 2 UAV complexes from the company. The Ministry of Defense buys no more than 5 different UAVs each year. The Rozenblat's company, with its Hawk UAVs, was the first to appear on the lists. How did it end up on the state UAV procurement list? You know, I think it ended up there by very hard effort of very intelligent people. Selling UAVs to the army is a peculiar business. Procurement is held without public tenders, decisions are made behind closed doors. On the one hand, the secrecy is justified because it's about procuring equipment for the army in a country that is at war. However, our interest in this topic is justified too, because in a country at war, the Defense Ministry decided to procure for the army a previously unknown UAV, which quality and price raise many questions. I think that the market participants know about this UAV and it's the best, so they know it very well. The market participants we asked haven't seen any Hawks and haven't heard about Rozenblat's UAV engineers. Natan Hazin leads the air reconnaissance project for the 5th year. I have seen it neither at presentations, nor at flights, nor at exhibitions. Hazin said that Ukrainian UAV manufacturers can be counted on the fingers of one hand. I don't know about this manufacturer and this design bureau. Artem Vunik has been making UAVs since 2014. His Furia is used on the front line since the war started. First by volunteer battalions, then he got official contracts with the Defense Ministry, the National Guard and the SBU. Vunik has never seen the best in the country Rozenblat's UAV. Have you seen it yourself? No, I haven't. On training grounds? No, for some reason I haven't seen it. Denis Cherednichenko makes Leleka UAVs in Dnipro city. His team doesn't only manufacture UAVs, but also trains the operators. They also provide their UAVs to the military through state procurement. Throughout years of working in this rather niche sphere, they haven't heard anything about Rozenblat's UAVs and their manufacture as well. Ukrainian aviation systems? Is it a division of the Kiev Polytechnic? No, from Zhytomyr. Oh, Zhytomyr. Then I really don't know. Stepan Poltorak, Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Military equipment can be used or ordered for procurement by the state only after he personally approves it with his signature. You signed the approval last year, do you remember? It is very hard to say. We have around 3,000 articles in the list. I don't remember each one. Rozenblat's UAV didn't get tested at the front line, but he got ordered by the Defense Ministry nonetheless. At first, the author of the UAV's idea reacted reasonably to our request to see it in action. I'll talk to the project leader. If he agrees, then it's a deal. However, in a couple of days. Classified information, do you understand that? Rozenblat runs faster and further than his family's UAVs fly. This didn't get in the way of the state order, of the state defense order. The state defense order is a complicated thing. It's a protocol. It's a complex of measures, the main one being the official equipment testing. Our main question to the testing is, how did the Amber drones pass it? The answer is an entire detective story on its own. To put it simply, the state defense order is a long and difficult process of planning for and procuring various equipment for the army by the Ministry of Defense. The main thing for Ukrainian manufacturer is to pass the final minister's testing. The testing is putting it to use. It's conducted only by the State Scientific Test Center of the Armed Forces. They test it really thoroughly. A lot of flights, landings, they test the visual module capabilities. The armed forces told us that the Hawk successfully passed the testing in summer of 2016. The testing protocol itself is classified. However, we found the results of other tests the Hawk did a couple of months before the successful one. The first demonstration flight of the Hawk UAV were conducted by the test center in spring 2016. The results were published in the journal Science and Tech of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. Let's admit, the flights didn't go well. The UAV crashed. The Hawk was to take off with a string, same as Leleka. Thus, we'll explain on the latter example. It had to be like this. An elastic string is stretched in the field. The string is attached to the UAV. It makes a sort of a big slingshot, which launches the drone. However, only 7 out of 9 flights the UAV made at the test center were successful. In 2 of them, the string got caught in the UAV's propeller, making it crash nose first. They even published a photo in the journal that's the propeller and that's the string. The fuselage is broken, the blade is destroyed. Crash caused by design flaws is a bad thing to have, and the experts were not very positive. A requirement for the takeoff capacity for UAVs in this class was not satisfied. Basically, that's a matter of chance if it takes off or tangles up and crashes. There was a slight difference between the failed flights in spring and the successful ones in summer. The failed demonstration takeoffs were done by Hawk UAVs provided by a Moldovan firm, DroneTech. The official tests in summer were undergone by a UAV also called Hawk, however, provided by a Ukrainian firm this time, the Ukrainian Aviation Systems of Rozenblat's wife. And the second one passed the tests, as we remember. Rozenblat insists that Ukrainian and Moldovan Hawks are completely different matters and modifications. But take a look at the pictures. Moldovan Hawk is on the left. The photo is from the Army Journal. Ukrainian Hawk is on the right side. The photo is from the official site of the Ukrainian firm. Try to find 10 differences. This is the same photo, just black and white on the left. There is more. The Moldovan DroneTech, which failed the demonstration flights, is registered to a father of one of the co-owners of the Ukrainian Rozenblat company. Thus, both Moldovan and Ukrainian firms are in a single business group, which use different legal entities to provide the Hawk UAVs for testing. And magic happened. The drone, which publicly failed the demonstration flight, passed classified tests in a couple of months. Only after testing seemingly their Hawk, the Rozenblat's company purchases the parts the UAV is made of. The most important parts, like the optics and the electronics, were bought from the same Moldovan dad, as well as the software and the assembly of the seemingly their own Hawk UAV. That is, the main parts of the UAV made their way into the country half a year to a year later than the Hawk passed the tests. So, some Moldovan dad brings a UAV to Ukraine, drags it to a public testing and fails it. But in a couple of months, the firm of Rozenblat and that Moldovan dad's son brings what seems to be the same UAV, signs up for official classified testing and passes it. Then the Ukrainian army starts getting this high-tech. It's time to ask, who is the mysterious supplier? Who is that master of sky technologies? Well, who is that Moldovan father? Daddy. Working at my father's car shop, first as a janitor, then a technician, then I graduated from the Moscow Automobile and Road Institute. Then, when I was conscripted to the army, I served in an air squadron as the head of the transport corps. Where could I go after this? To the transport sphere. Vitaly Didenko, the Moldovan supplier of parts and technology for the Rozenblat's UAVs. For more than 20 years, Didenko has been doing, well, not flights, more like the opposite, truck service. The cargo transported by the company from Turkey to Russia and Ukraine. For some reason, this exact company supplies Shanna Rozenblat with complex things like integrated flight management computers. Even more, Didenko's firm doesn't just resell parts to Rozenblats. They seemingly develop and upgrade the UAV navigation circuitry themselves. They develop intricate fixtures. To put it simply, they do R&D work. Didenko Sr. from the Moldovan firm refused to talk about his air career. So did Didenko Jr. from the Ukrainian firm. Let us discuss this among ourselves, and then we will call you and tell you when we will be able to do that, if we will at all. He didn't call. The MP Rozenblat, whose long-term dream was to supply the army with UAVs, answered with a weird metaphor about cover. I'm a military engineer. I finished the higher military institution in a military construction. When we built a school, we made a nuclear shaft underneath, for nuclear missiles, you see? But it was a school on the surface. Do you understand? Please explain. Goodbye. Are you trying to tell it was your design? Then he returned himself to convince us it's not our business. Classified information, do you understand that? Me? I understand the difference between classified and not. They failed the unclassified public tests. They passed the classified ones. Classified suppliers are a high-tech company, but if you scratch on that secrecy, you find some kind of a relative whose high-tech is a jack and trailer. But maybe we are too strict? Maybe that relative designed the best UAV in the world late at night with a jack in a trailer. Okay, let's take a closer look. The information about the Hawk's composition is scarce. Some data on the firm's website and answers to our requests to the Defense Ministry. That's what they told us. The UAV Hawk standard loadout is ground control station, antenna complex, 2 drones and 2 optical modules, that is cameras. Intended use, air reconnaissance. We showed all the material we gathered to the head of the air reconnaissance project. Hazin said that it's impossible to say whether a UAV is good or bad without holding the drone in your hands and trying out its software. But there are things which you cannot miss. For example, the loadout cannot have only 2 drones. It's 3 at the least. 2 units in a complex it's bad. How crucial it is? It's bad. Is it tolerable or it's bad? Usually it's 1 is in the air, 1 in the reserve, and 1 for change. For change? When 1 returns, it flies back there. They work in shifts. We are talking about the air reconnaissance tactics, which is the intended use of the Hawk, according to its maker. In our experience, when we shot 1 drone out of 3, we completely paralyzed the operation of an enemy UAV complex. They cannot circulate anymore. If they don't have 1 of the drones, no reserve. So the world practice is having 3? Yes, and the good manufacturers make it 4. The string takeoff technique used by the high-tech UAV of Rozenblats is called an outdated and dangerous design by Hazin. It has a high chance of losses during takeoff. A catapult isn't a know-how. It's not the best engineering decision for the best UAV complex in Ukraine. There are complexes which can take off vertically from virtually any surface. The camera under the fuselage is also at risk. It can get damaged during the landing. This shows the vulnerability and expandability of the complex. Even the antenna has flaws. The way it looks here, it's one of the most primitive antenna. That's a bad CV. We are talking about a very simple, mediocre complex, lacking any special tactical characteristics. Hazin compares it to the Polish Fly Eye, which will be assembled by a Ukrainian factory under a license agreement, which wasn't just used, but adopted by the Ukrainian army in December last year. Assad has 3 drones. They take off being thrown by hand. During landing, the camera detaches and lands with its own parachute. What we wanted to do was to check the airworthiness of Rozenblat's drones. You know, there aren't many firms which make military UAVs in Ukraine, and we managed to look at all of them. We were shown all of them except the creation of this Moldovan Zhytomyr Ferro-Amber enclave. Providing grounds near Dnipro. The Vero development team and the Azov regiment are preparing a Leleka UAV for launch. We see them assemble the drone, install the antenna, set up the ground control station. Can you angle the camera up? The Leleka 100 UAV is having a flyby today. That's how they call a test launch of the new UAV. I am ready, go! How is the wind? It's 8. You're flying too low. Only after a successful flyby, the UAV is given to the soldiers, who take it to the east right away. And our camera crew goes to the factory where the UAV is made. This is the main floor of the design bureau. They showed both old and new models. See, you detached it without any training. The contract of the Dnipro team with the ministry is classified. We didn't talk about it, unlike the manufacturing, which they showed us. Fuselage prefabs came from the composite facility, which worked almost 24/7. What are they printing now? That's for the payload. Our training planes are almost complete copies of combat planes. They even let us try the flight simulator. If you take to the left now, it will go to you, and from you if you take to the right. You are flying upside down. That's the composite materials floor. This is the base of Kiev Athlon, which makes the Furia UAVs. Here's where we arrange the fuselage. We use both Kevlar and carbon. The wing is attached here, which gives a structure transverse strength. That's what an almost finished fuselage looks like. They don't tell the details of the contract as well, but they don't hide from the journalists. The size differs a bit, of course. It has a rather interesting fastening. Experimental? Yes, it's experimental. That's the aileron I told you about. And this is Zhytomyr. Industrial districts on the outskirts. The Hawk manufacturer is registered at this ferroconcrete factory. Where did you get this address? Why, on the website? We are told the site is commercially classified. You need a special permit, you need to have a special training. However, only a couple of minutes before that. Do they fly here? The UAVs? What do they do here? Ferroconcrete goods. We need you to send us a request. We work with the Defense Ministry, and this request will be forwarded to our curators in the SBU, who will permit us to respond to the request.
До наших кураторів служили високі України, які далі будуть надавати нам дозвіл на відпрацювання даного запиту.
A big high-tech company refused to accept our request in the form of an email letter, and they asked us to bring a paper one in Zhytomyr. Maybe they hoped we wouldn't, but we did. But this time, they don't even want to come out. We left the request at the guard desk. The company stopped picking the phone up. We had to make a single phone call to negotiate a trip to see how Leleka UAVs are made. We had to write a single SMS message to visit the Furia factory in Kiev. To get the Rozenblat firm to show if they have any assembled UAVs which don't crash, we had to chase him in the parliament twice. We went twice to Zhytomyr, we brought the paper request from another city, we called them numerous times, listening to the tales about the SBU. However, they still didn't show us what do the Hawks, the best UAVs in the country, look like. We'd love to say how much all this costs, but the Ministry of Defense didn't give any figures, telling us they are still negotiating. Our sources tell us that the price is the only high-tech part of Rozenblat's UAVs. And all this began from a level much higher than the average for Ukrainian-made drones, that is, from $340,000 per complex. What's more important is that this Moldovan Ukrainian structure is built in a way that it can put forth any price it wants. Remember when we told you that aside from parts, the Ukrainian aviation systems also orders development services from the Moldovan fathers firms. So they have allegedly spent almost $115,000 on the latter. Why is it important? Not just because it's strange. A part of the state defense order is held publicly. The price gets formed at competitive auctions. Another part is classified, as was with the case with our UAVs. In cases like that, the price must be calculated according to a certain formula. The formula approved by the cabinet shouldn't have been strict. However, the manufacturer has the right to include all kinds of work-related expenses in the price, as well as the services of other firms, including manufacture of certain parts or improvement to the technology. The ministry didn't decide on a price for the Hawks as of yet, but we are interested how the design achievements of the Moldovan truck driver will affect the final price. Let's sum up. Born to dig amber shall never fly. That's all for today. This was Dennis Bihus with the program Our Money. You can watch any of our episodes, now even with English translation, on our YouTube channel. By the way, subscribe, write us on social media, we're on Facebook, for example, and follow our groups. And if you have any interesting topic, feel free to email us and subscribe to our newsletter. See you on air in a week. Goodbye.